Okay, let's dive into one of the biggest mysteries out there. Where does something as complex as language actually live inside our brains? For, over 100 years, we thought we had a pretty good map, but it turns out that map was just a rough first draft. Today, we're going to look at the journey from that simple, old map to a brand new one that is so much more dynamic.
So, let's start with a little thought experiment. Just picture this. There's a beach ball right at your feet. Someone yells, "Kick it!" Which foot do you use? Don't overthink it. Just your first instinct. Okay, now what if they said throw it? Which hand would you use? For most of us, it's going to be the right foot and the right hand. And that isn't just random. It's actually our first clue about how our brains are wired.
You see, that preference comes from the fact that our brain is split into two halves, two hemispheres. Your left hemisphere controls the right side of your body, and the right hemisphere controls the left. Simple enough. But they also have their own specializations, and for about 99% of right-handers, the incredibly important job of language is handled almost entirely by the left hemisphere.
So, how did we even figure this out in the first place? Well, the story starts back in the 19th century with a couple of doctors who gave us the very first pins on our brain's language map. This was the classic, simple view of where language lived.
So in 1861, a French surgeon named Paul Broca had a patient who could understand everything said to him but could only say one single word, tan. That was it. After the patient passed away, Broca examined his brain and found damage in one specific spot, in the left frontal lobe. He had an aha moment and realized this region, which we now call Broca's area, must be the brain's speaking center, the place responsible for actually producing words.
Then, just about a decade later, a German neurologist named Karl Wernicke came across patients with the opposite problem. They could talk up a storm, fluently, with perfect grammar, but what they said was complete and utter nonsense, and they couldn't understand what other people were saying. Wernicke found damage in a different spot, in the left temporal lobe, and that became Wernicke's area, the brain's meaning center.
And this quote just perfectly shows what happens when that speaking center, Broca's area, is damaged. This is from a real patient trying to tell the story of Cinderella. I mean, you get it, right? The ideas are there, you can totally follow the story, but the words are broken, the grammar's missing. It's like trying to send a text message when half the letters on your keyboard are just gone.
So this gave us this beautifully simple, almost factory-like model. Step 1, Wernicke's area, the meaning center, comes up with the idea. Step 2, it sends that idea over to Broca's area, the speaking center, which puts the words and grammar together. And step 3, the final command goes to the motor cortex, which tells your mouth and tongue what to do. Simple, clean, and for a very long time, this was the accepted story. But as science got better, some serious cracks started to appear in this nice, simple story. Cases began to show up that just didn't fit the map at all. The brain, it turns out, was a whole lot more complicated.
That neat little map really started to fall apart with cases that just defied all logic. These cases asked a pretty shocking question. What happens if someone has a catastrophic brain injury and their language is totally fine?
Probably the most famous and just unbelievable answer to that question is the case of Phineas Gage. In 1848, an explosion sent a 3.5-foot iron rod clean through his head. It destroyed a huge piece of his left frontal lobe. But incredibly, moments later, he was sitting up and talking. Now, his personality was changed forever, but his ability to speak and understand, it was still there. According to that old map, that should have been completely impossible.
And Gage wasn't just some one-off historical oddity. Modern neurologists see these kinds of puzzles all the time. Patients with their Broca's area totally destroyed who can still speak. People with Wernicke's area gone who can still understand. In fact, this neat little localist model, it only really works for about 85% of cases. That other 15% tells us something much, much bigger is going on. And this is what brings us to the new map. A map that shows language isn't just in one or two little spots. It's not a factory. It's a massive network, a superhighway of connections that stretches all across the brain. Now, this network idea gets proven by some really fascinating brain imaging experiments. When scientists had people read action words, they saw something amazing. If you read the word kick, it's not just the classic language areas that light up. The part of your motor cortex that controls your actual foot also kicks into gear. Language isn't stuck in a box, it's woven right into the fabric of how we move and sense the world.
So modern neuroscience thinks of this network as having two main highways. You've got the dorsal stream, which you can think of as the how pathway. It's all about the mechanics, connecting a sound to the mouth movements you need to say it. It's what you use to just repeat a word you hear. Then there's the ventral stream. That's the what pathway. It connects a sound to its actual meaning, which is how you understand what's being said.
But what's the absolute ultimate proof that the brain builds networks for a function, like language, instead of dedicating little spots for the tools we use for it, like our mouths or our ears?
Well, the answer comes from sign language. It uses totally different tools, right? Sight and hands, not sound and voice. So you'd think it would be processed in the visual or motor parts of the brain. But it's not. Deaf signers who have a stroke in their left hemisphere can get a signing version of Broca's or Wernicke's aphasia. The brain uses the exact same language network because the job, the function, is language, no matter what tools you use to do it.
So this is the really critical idea here. Our brain isn't a collection of separate little organs doing their own thing. It's this incredibly flexible, interconnected network that can adapt and reorganize itself in ways that are just astounding.
Let's just look at this side by side. The old map, the localist model, saw the brain as a set of separate factories, one for speaking, one for understanding. The new map, the network model, sees it as this highly connected, bustling commercial network with distributed jobs and specialized highways for different tasks. It's a total shift in how we see the most complex object we know of.
And if you need one last testament to the brain's incredible flexibility, its plasticity, this is it. A boy, known in studies as BL, had to have his entire left hemisphere, his entire language hemisphere, removed when he was 5 years old to stop terrible seizures. What happened? His right hemisphere just took over the job. He not only learned to speak perfectly well, he graduated from college with a double major. That is the power of a brain that can literally rewire itself. So we end on this question. If our brains are built to organize around a task, not limited by the specific tools we're born with, what does that really mean for our ability to learn, to adapt, and to recover from injury? The new map of the brain seems to be telling us that those limits might be way beyond anything we've ever imagined.